Large language models are absolutely everywhere. I mean, they can write poetry, they can debug your code, they can even plan your entire vacation. But they have this huge hidden flaw. So today, we're going to talk about the brilliant solution that fixes it. It's a system called Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or RAG for short. And honestly, it's the key to making these powerful AIs not just smart, but actually trustworthy.
All right, so here's the plan. First, we're going to unpack the big problem that LLMs have right out of the box. Then, I've got this super simple courtroom analogy that's going to make the solution just click for you. After that, we'll dive into the nuts and bolts of how RAG actually works, we'll look at why it's such a massive game changer, and finally, we'll see why the future of AI is, well, it's augmented.
Okay, let's get right into it. The problem. We tend to think of these LLMs as, these all-knowing geniuses. But the reality is they're more like flawed geniuses. They can be incredibly confident and, at the exact same time, be incredibly wrong.
Let me ask you something. A question you'd probably ask an AI. In our solar system, which planet has the most moons? Sounds pretty simple, right? You'd think a model that's basically swallowed the entire internet would spit that answer out in a second. Well, here's the twist. A standard LLM, one that was trained maybe a year or two ago, would tell you with total confidence that the answer is Jupiter. And hey, for a long time it was. But science, it doesn't stand still. The right answer, thanks to discoveries in 2023, is actually Saturn, with 146 moons. The LLM is just stuck in the past. Its knowledge is literally frozen in time.
And that one little example? It really gets to the heart of the challenges we face with these models. First, the information is out of date. Second, the model can't tell you why it thinks Jupiter is the answer. It has no source to cite. It's just pulling from its memory. And that can lead to what we call hallucinations, which is a nice way of saying the model just makes stuff up to fill in the gaps. Not exactly what you want when you need an answer you can rely on.
So how do we fix this? How do we give this flawed genius access to the latest, most accurate info? Well, let's use a simple analogy that makes this whole RAG concept totally clear. Let's go to the courtroom. So picture the large language model as a really experienced judge. This judge has seen it all, has this vast general understanding of the law built up over decades. That's its training data. They can reason, they can interpret really complex situations, all based on this deep but general knowledge.
Okay, now picture your own data. Your company's internal documents, the latest scientific research, your website's help articles, as a massive law library. This isn't just general knowledge. This place is packed with the most current, the most specific, the most factual legal documents, case files, and new precedents. It's the ground truth.
And RAG? Well, RAG is the super diligent court clerk. When our judge gets a new case that needs very specific, up-to-the-minute information, they don't just guess based on old cases. No way. They send the clerk sprinting to that library to find the exact relevant documents for this case. The clerk comes back with the facts, and only then does the judge use them to make a smart, informed, and accurate ruling. That, right there, is RAG.
Okay, so the courtroom analogy is a perfect way to get the what. But how does our court clerk actually pull this off? How does it know which book to grab? Let's pop the hood and take a look inside the engine room. The secret sauce here, the thing that makes this whole retrieval thing work, is a concept called a vector. And look, don't let the technical name scare you. Just think of it like a digital fingerprint for meaning. A vector is just a long list of numbers that captures the essence of a piece of text. And here's the really clever part. Text about similar ideas will have similar numbers. So the vector for Apple's stock price will be mathematically very, very different from the vector for the best apple pie recipe. So here's how it all comes together. First up is indexing. This is where your entire law library of documents gets broken down into smaller chunks, and each little chunk gets its own unique vector fingerprint. Then, when you ask a question, your query gets turned into a vector too. Now comes the magic part, retrieval. This is the clerk running through the library stacks. The system does this lightning-fast search to find the document vectors that are mathematically closest to your questions vector. Once it finds the most relevant stuff, it does what's called augmentation, which is basically just stapling that new information right onto your original prompt. And finally, that new, supercharged, context-rich prompt goes to the LLM, our judge, who now has all the specific facts needed to generate a grounded, accurate, and up-to-date answer. So we've seen the what and the how. But what's the real-world payoff here?
Why is this whole augmented approach such a gigantic leap forward compared to just using a regular old LLM?
Oh, the advantages are huge, and they directly fix all those problems we talked about earlier. First off, your AI's knowledge is always up to date. You don't have to retrain the entire billion-dollar model. You just update your documents. Simple. The answers it gives become factual and verifiable because they are grounded in your source material. And that dramatically reduces hallucinations. It's just way less likely to make things up. Even better, it can actually cite its sources. It can show you the documents it used to come up with the answer. And maybe most importantly, if the answer isn't in the library, a good RAG system will just say, I don't know, instead of confidently making something up.
Look, this isn't just some clever little technical trick. This is a fundamental shift in how we're going to build and interact with AI in the real world. So why is this such a big deal? Because RAG has quickly become the dominant architecture, the absolute go-to solution for any company that wants to use an LLM with its own private internal data. We're talking about everything from customer service chatbots that know your order history, to an internal tool that lets employees search company policies, to a system that analyzes the latest financial reports. RAG is the framework that makes all of that possible, useful, and most important.